It's been an extraordinary 24 hours in the swearing in of the new Prime Minister, Liz Truss. We spoke about her last week. It's early days, and I don't want to, count unhatched chickens and all of that. But are we finally seeing a real Conservative in Downing Street? Is this the first proper Tory Prime Minister since Margaret Thatcher? I'm just going to play you a little bit of her Prime Minister question time earlier on.
There is nothing new about the Tory fantasy of trickle-down economics. Nothing new about this Tory Prime Minister who nodded through every single decision that got us into this mess and now says how terrible it is. And can't she see there's nothing new about a Tory Prime Minister who, when asked who pays, says it's you, the working people of Britain.
Well, there's nothing new about a Labour leader who is calling for more tax rises. Same old tax and spend.
I was so thrilled, Esther, because it reminded me of Thatcher back in the day. She put Sir Keir Starmer in his place, the Labour leader. He thought he had the runs on her, and she absolutely slammed her. The Tories loved it. She spoke about aspiration. She spoke about making Britain great again based on hard work and not a welfare state. Esther, what were your thoughts?
I mean, I think it's very promising. It's a very promising start. I've been very vocal that Liz Truss's performances in the dispatch box haven't been particularly impressive. She had this persona of being a bit wooden. But even, publications that are not necessarily friendly to Conservative governments, like The Independent, like The Guardian, said, it was somewhat of a steady performance. And I think that's very promising because that's the best you're going to get out of those newspapers. But what I would like to see is really a return to actual Conservative principles. And I have to say that what I've seen so far, it's a pretty good start. We're talking about, getting fracking back up and going in this country. We're sitting on, generations worth of energy and resources, and it's a complete crime that we've let ourselves come to be at the mercy of regimes like Russia in terms of our energy. So, there are murmurings of things that I think are positive and they're moving in the right direction. Obviously, Jacob Rees-Mogg has become the Secretary for Business. So that's, again, something in the right direction. Suella Braverman in the Home Secretary, let's hope she can slim down and really restrict the power of the civil service there. There are good things happening. Obviously, it's just the next 6 weeks will be crucial to Liz Truss's premiership.
Well, I think also, Esther, the key thing, and you actually referred to it, it drives me nuts that everybody keeps blaming Ukraine for the energy crisis. I'd point the finger first and foremost at Boris Johnson betraying every Conservative principle, going totally woke, joining the climate cult, sitting there, demonising coal, and leaving Britain without sufficient energy. That's where the blame should rest. Now, what's going to happen within the Tory party, because it's clearly split, as it was between Brexiteers and Remainers, it's clearly split between the climate cultists, who should be in the Greens or the Labour Party, and those Tories who recognise that you've got to get back to fracking, you've got to get back to energy self-sufficiency, which Britain could easily do. Where's that fault line going to fall, and where's Liz Truss going to end up?
I think it's clear for most people in the Conservative Party that wherever you stand, it will be suicidal to knock back Liz Truss, and it will also be, an act of treason against this country that's facing real problems over the next, this winter certainly, but over the next 2 years. So I think, for the next few months, Liz Truss has a bit of a buffer in that respect, that the members of the Tory Party and the Tory Party and government will fall in line, and they have to put their differences aside. In terms of sort of energy security, you are right to blame Boris, but I would go further than that, and I would say, this goes back to the Blair era that didn't actually, make energy independence and energy security a priority. We've invested heavily in solar and wind, which is extremely inefficient. A lot of these companies that are producing that type of energy have been given sort of a free ride for far too long. Energy independence and energy security, which is not only a national security but also a geopolitical issue, have been long, put on the side and not prioritised.
Absolutely.
Sir Ed Davey, who was Lib Dem leader, was proud to say he got fracking banned, but now he probably shouldn't be saying that because that's kind of what's got us in the situation we're in now.
Exactly.
So I think for now, the Tories will back Liz Truss because it's in their best interest.
Great. And just very quickly before we go, I love this Theresa Coffey. She seemed to be determined to kill off the nanny state. She's a smoker. She's a dancer. She drinks. You know, she listens to Dr. Dre. She sounds fantastic. Is this, very quickly, is this the end of the nanny state?
Well, let's hope, because one of the things that's very clear is the NHS really does need a lot of reform. One of the biggest criticisms I've leveled at the NHS is it's more reactive than proactive. I think you need to have a more proactive approach with people's healthcare so that you don't have, kind of the levels of lifestyle-related illnesses that we have to deal with in the NHS. And I'm hoping, Theresa Coffey can balance liberal policies with actually enforcing more proactive approaches to our own healthcare in this country. And that's going to be a tightrope for her to find.
Fantastic. Esther Krakue, thanks so much for speaking to us. We'll see you next week.